So, welcome to the January community meeting. My name is Donald Harris. I am the founder of ATX Game Makers, and I am very, very glad that you are all here. So, what is this meeting about? Well, the agenda here is we're going to tell you what ATX Game Makers is. If this is your first time being in one of our events or just being a part of our Discord, I want to go ahead and introduce our moderators that help us keep the wheels on the bus and tell you about our 2021 plans. And then finally, at the end, open it up for discussions so that you guys can ask us all questions and we can get a good understanding of what it is that you want from us as well. With that being said, let's get it started. So, what is ATX? Or what is ATX Game Makers? Our mission statement, which I'm still personally kind of moderating or modifying a little bit. ATX Game Makers is a community of game developers and enthusiasts that are working to create opportunities, share knowledge, and encourage diversity and inclusion inside the industry worldwide. And so what that means is, when you want to boil it down, we're basically trying to get as many new and different faces inside this industry that we love. And we'll do that by way of tutoring you and sharing knowledge on actual game development to preparing you for an interview with a AAA studio. And that goes in, we'll touch on that a little bit further down the road. In the past, when the world looked a little different, we would have monthly meetups in person. And there you can see, if you joined this chat earlier, we were talking about our South Bites location. So that's in the South by Southwest building, downtown Austin, Texas. And we have a partnership with them to where we are able to meet there as much as we want, as often as we want. And again, when the world is safe, we will definitely start that stuff back up again. Some of the other things that we've done is an indie showcase. So we held a live event where, very members of our community were showing off all of their hard work and all of their progress on personal projects. And we actually have a YouTube recap of that. So, you can definitely check that out on our YouTube channel. There will be more things like that, just obviously different because it won't be in person. We've done some industry panels and had different members of the community go out and speak on different panels and talk about different issues and events inside the games industry. Art review nights, portfolio reviews, resumes, and a whole bunch more. And obviously we have game nights as well, as hosted by Clint, and he'll talk to that more so in upcoming. So with that, this is a perfect segue to talk about that. So we have a set of moderators. So like I said before, my name is Donald Harris. I founded ATX Game Makers, and it quickly grew to much more than I could handle by myself. And so I have a group of amazing moderators helping me with the day-to-day and some future planning and all over the place. So since I just mentioned Clint, I'll go ahead and pick on him again. And Clint, if you want to introduce yourself and tell us what you do here at ATX Game Makers.
Hi, yeah, I'm Clint. You may know me as Volosaurus. I've been part of ATX GM for a little under a year now. I host the game nights that are every 2 weeks, which we have one coming up this Friday. I'll drop more details about that at the end of this presentation. I have been in and out of Austin and Chicago, learning to develop games and working on personal projects. I have a few released personal projects. And I'm currently working on a fairly large Hush Hush project right now. So that's going on the back burner. And that's me. I'm all about social interactions with you guys and with other devs.
All right, up next, let's go with Teresa.
Oh my goodness. Hello. Hi, everybody. My name is Teresa Prudence. I'm an account manager at Experis that specialized in the gaming industry, as I've been supporting games and the people in the industry for over 2 decades in various positions. So over the years, I've worked as either the only woman in the room or one of the very few, or not just room, lab, team, interview panel, dev studio people, warehouse, LAN. So I like to use that history of experience through mentorships, as well as discussing game industry best practices with the aim to improve the lives of gamers and game makers.
Right on. And then we have Josh.
Hey, I'm Josh Squires. I'm a visual designer at Farbridge with Donald's. I mostly help out on the back end of things with setting up the Discord and those types of permissions, along with punching up Donald's slide decks when he asks for it.
For sure. All right. And then we got Mio.
Hey y'all, my name is Mio Strongoli. I am a character artist. I have lots of experience with organizing groups, maintaining groups, running all kinds of events for diversity, equity, and inclusion focused initiatives. So that's kind of what I bring to ATX GM is really thinking about how we can foster a community, how we can grow, and how we can continue to create opportunities in the industry for people who are wanting to get in, for people who are already in. So my focus is really creating a community that is focused on changing the way that the game industry works for the better.
Right on. And so there are a few other mods that will come in and help us out from time to time. And so they weren't able to make it tonight, so you will all definitely get to meet them in the future for sure. So I didn't forget anyone, right? I think we got everyone. All right, good.
You're good.
All right. So I guess we could go over this. And so this is how obviously the community can interact with the mods and what some outside of the things that they listen. Here are some of the things they're also here for. Obviously to answer questions about ATX Game Makers, and obviously keeping the peace and upholding our community conduct rules, which are posted in several different places on the website and throughout the Discord channel as well. And I want to definitely make sure that this is a well-known thing, is that we have an email that's checked on by both myself and Teresa. It is report@ATX Game Makers. So if you want to do an anonymous, it's a very hard word to say, anonymous report, definitely feel free to submit a report, and we take those things very, very serious. So keeping everyone safe and comfortable inside this community is paramount. And then also, obviously, they will definitely are here to hear feedback. We have a Slack. Jeez, I'm still in work mode. We have a Discord channel called Suggestions, where you can feel free to bring up suggestions on ways to improve the community, improve the Discord, so forth and so on. So we're always open to hear, because we're here for you. So 2021, get 2020 out of my head. 2021 and beyond. All of the things that we were, yes. All of the things that we're planning for 2021. We've had a couple of planning sessions, and so we wanted to talk about those things with the community and let you guys know what we're working on. So we have a couple of different pillars that we're focused on, and one of the big ones is more opportunities to get engaged. And so not only is that more opportunities to create engagement within the community itself, so such as meetings like this, the community meetings, but different events within the games industry to where we as a community can participate or we as a community just will want to be there and want to be a part of it. Some of the things that we have coming up is a resume and networking session. There's still some additional plannings that are going in the works, but the long story short, and I'll go ahead and announce it here, is that we'll be partnering with LinkedIn, and LinkedIn will be coming in and helping lend some additional experts to help us get through some resume tweaking for a huge audience. So not only everyone here in the community, but other organizations that we invite as well. And then again, along those same lines, more industry-focused events. So Teresa's been working really hard on coming up with themes to keep things kind of tight and organized as we move from month to month, and we'll be able to build events around those themes that are game industry focused. And so you can expect more monthly themes and monthly themed events coming out of this work. And then finally, more partnerships with the community. So there are some other projects that I have going on that I'm trying to get involved with UT and other gaming studios. So one of the other partnerships that we have is with Hairbrain Scheme Studios, and I'll kind of let Clint talk a little bit more about that. That has to do with the game nights and things of that nature. You guys might have seen a little bit of that before the end of 2020. And so those are just some of the big things that we have going on, the big tent poles, if you will, for 2021. And then so within those things, obviously, is more member feedback, right? So as we have these events and as we hold these events, we're going to be taking surveys and creating ways for us to get more information from you so that we can make these events more pertinent, more just better for you overall. So you guys can expect that. Expect more surveys, more of us in your face saying, tell us what you think. And then we're gonna, under the industry, so under the tent pole of industry events and things like that, we're gonna have guest speakers and more panels. And so based on the member feedback, that will help us drive which panels that we want to put together. So that way, we, again, make sure that the information is pertinent to you all and very informative. And again, I've already kind of spoke to the resumes and portfolio reviews. So resumes and portfolio reviews is something that we do just overall. I think even Teresa had a couple today that she was working on. So always feel free to grab a mentor. And you kind of heard different mentors have different skill sets within the industry. So like if you have an art portfolio, you know, definitely want to hit up Mio. Don't hit up me to look at your art portfolio, but if you want to learn about, if you need help in building a resume or networking and business development, I'm definitely your guy to go to. And then Teresa is definitely just like overall, I'm trying to think like all the things that you're good at, like getting a job.
I can talk
related
to it. So why I do it a lot is because so for Experis, we hire people for various game studios or publishers, and we find candidates and submit them to a game studio or a publisher. And I look at resumes all day long for candidates to submit, and there are certain things, because Experis has many other competitors in the gaming industry. I think some of them are posting jobs in the job posts section. So I was like, ooh, awesome. And so I have ideas of what will put those resumes, those candidates in the eyes of the client that will make them get hired and get a job. So that's across every discipline.
Yep, definitely. Also, that Teresa, you just brought up a good point. I definitely want to make sure that everybody knows that there is a job board, so that's open to everyone. If you have questions about those things, definitely feel free to hit us up, and that's one of the big reasons why we're here. And again, the monthly themes, kind of mentioned that a little bit earlier. that again keep us all focused, keep us on track as far as the community leadership and the events that we drive. So that's gonna be great. And then obviously with overall everything, just more events in general. And so that's the end of the production. And so I know I've given a lot of information, and we have talked to a few. Like this may be the first time that some of you have met me or any of the mods. So definitely want to open it up to the floor and ask if y'all have any questions or give us any feedback. We're here. This time you can unmute your mics.
Okay, I was just about to ask. Regarding any like future partnership opportunities, I am from one of the organizations at UT, EGADS. I'm one of the
Mhm.
officers. So, me being here, I love to see that I could look to ATX game makers for potential partnership opportunities. So, I guess for a discussion post, would you be open to perhaps participate in future EGADS events as well, for like panels or like speakers that we might invite you guys to?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I was at the kickoff to the EGADS events in 2020. I think it was in 2020. I can't remember. Time is weird.
Yeah.
But I spoke at one of the EGADS events, and yeah, I mean, our moderators would definitely love to participate in that
Okay, and I also
as myself.
remember you from the BOM Game Jam. You're one of the mentors,
Yep.
specifically for my team. So I was like, oh, Donald is here. I had no idea that you were one of the founders of ATX Game Maker. So seeing you here is a huge shock of surprise.
Right on, right on. Well, hey
Not
man,
only is he one of the founders, he is the founder.
Right. He is the founder. I apologize.
glad to see you. Definitely, yeah. But yeah, we will follow up. Shoot me a DM, and we'll definitely follow up and get some things scheduled.
Amazing. Thank you.
I am actually part of the ACC game program, so the other side of the way. If both of you would like to coordinate with me, I am trying to get our program organized into an actual network that we can start doing events and things and help each other. So that's just starting. We've had a game dev club in the past, but it seems to fall apart every semester. So I am working on getting everyone organized into an actual thing that will last beyond just me being involved. So I will try to coordinate with you two and see what we can do in the future.
If you don't mind, would you drop your handle so people listening can know who to talk to?
I am Neptus on Discord. I don't have any social media set up yet. As soon as I do, I will make sure that's available for everyone.
Thank you very much.
Perfect. Yeah, Neptus, we will definitely be following up. Yeah, this is great. I'm already excited. Any other questions from anyone else?
So I was actually having a conversation earlier today with Teresa that I think something that would be really cool to see is some of this knowledge transfer in a focused kind of environment. So say that we had a Q&A session regarding different topics such as, I don't know, QA, development, or production. I think that would really benefit a lot of us, especially since, I don't know, I'm just coming into the industry, trying to come into the industry. And I feel like there's a lot of lessons that I could take from a lot of your knowledge. Teresa was just giving me like a quick 5-minute summary of all of the things she went through in the industry. And I feel like that alone taught me a lot of things and gave me a lot of guidance. So as far as workshops or discussions that I would like to see in the future, definitely I would love to have a forum for people to bring those questions forward.
Okay.
Something I'd like to piggyback off of that. A lot of times we have workshops like this, and not just in ATX, but in, like in groups in general. And the questions that are presented are very esoteric in nature. And while I mean that has its value and its purpose, I think don't be afraid to ask the very specific technical, like engineering question, like, hey, what would be a good solution for, this very specific kind of problem? Because like, it's not like anyone owns these sorts of things, right? So in that example, go ahead, ask what you consider to be, the dumb engineering question. It's fine. Like, we've all been there.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah, and I would piggyback off that and kind of say like one of our focuses being really industry specific events this year, I think is kind of along that line, because we realize people currently in ATX Game Makers range anywhere from someone who is still in school or has just graduated to someone who might be a little more veteran in the industry. So we want to be able to provide like programming and events that appeal to both of those. So we want to hold more spaces where y'all can be learning more things, essentially.
Yeah. And further piggyback, that's like a pig with a very long back. Eventually, we want to get to a point where we have a mentoring program in place that is still on the agenda. We didn't really specifically call it out in this particular presentation. It's definitely on the agenda. So knowledge transfer and the whole education piece is big. That's something that we definitely want to develop.
Cool. I'm looking forward to it.
So there were some things that came out of the conversation that we had earlier, and so before the conversation, I still plan to have some kind of talk or event about organization, planning, and goals, just to get together to work through all of that with anybody that's interested. And another one that came out of the conversation was the life cycle of game development. I think that would be really cool. You asked for that one, and I think that would be helpful for a lot of people. And then doing the game testing 101 again, because I have that all handy and it was easy to do.
Yep.
If I may chime in, I was curious about the idea of it might not be the most relevant thing for this community, but like a dedicated space within the Discord or organization for game jams. Because as somebody who's been trying to work on smaller personal projects, it's very difficult to, I guess, find people who take it a little bit more seriously. Most of the people I end up finding for game jams oftentimes just don't have the time or energy to commit to a full project for a week. And having people that are local to work on a game jam with, even if it is still online. So is the idea of a space within the server for discussing game jams, posting game jams, searching for people to work with for game jams? Do you think that there could be room for that?
I'm gonna let Teresa speak to this because I'm pretty sure we were already talking about this.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, hey, there's team building. The team building channel is for that. Yeah. So yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
I think we're gonna say the same thing. Like, not only game jams, but anything game making related, or you need somebody on a team that you're actually paying, or not just any kind of, or it is for any kind of team building. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So the team building channel is definitely a place and a space for that. At some point this year, I think we definitely will have an official ATX Game Makers Game Jam. So be on the lookout for that, and that'll probably be tied into some things. It's the timing of that is probably going to be after a few of the themes that Teresa has already planned for us, so that way it can kind of cultivate and get you ready to work in a team environment and be available to learn and be in that environment. But I will also say this, the entire server is here for the community. So if you yourself want to say, hey, I want to do a weekend game jam, I've always been interested in it, and you get a whole bunch of community members that are like saying, hey, they want the same things, let us and the moderators know. And if this is something that we can facilitate for you, we will, right? We definitely have our plans, and we might say, well, hey, we might have an official one coming up or whatever the case may be. But yes, definitely there will be game jams coming up. That's on the agenda.
In addition to the team building room, if there's something specific you're looking for, feel free to, if you're looking for an artist, feel free to post about it in the art school channel or whatever appropriate channel in the discipline section.
Yep.
Well, I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Right on. Anyone else? Any other questions?
All right, so for the events that I brought up before, is anyone interested in those? Like, would somebody want to go to the goal planning organization one? Because if not, I just won't do it.
You want to make that so people can show their interest.
Yeah.
You just share your ideas, and I can tick yes, no.
Yeah, I should probably do that.
Yep.
May I ask, do you guys have a calendar for events to schedule that we can look at?
So we don't have a calendar just yet. That was supposed to be another addition to. You know what? You just brought up a great thing. Mio, you're taking notes, right? Or yeah. That was actually supposed to be built out on the ATX Game Makers website.
Mm-hmm.
It just hasn't been yet. So,
I understand.
but no. I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm glad you reminded me. That's something that I need to accomplish and definitely get out there for everyone.
What we are doing this year is being much more diligent about the posting of events ahead of time. So please look out for our social channels, our Twitter, our Instagram. Those are going to be the places where we post about stuff. Also, if you're on Meetup, that's like the closest thing that we have to a calendar right now is seeing what events are coming up. But hopefully we'll have a better solution, more elegant solution for that in the future.
Okay. You said Meetup? Is that an app?
It's an app and it's a website, meetup.com.
I see. Oh, yeah. I'm familiar with it.
Yep. And then also, I want to, Clint, if you want to talk about your game night and the stuff with Hairbrain.
Yeah. So regarding game nights, so you may remember that as Donald already mentioned, in I believe it was the last December game night before everything started, slowing down. We had a few giveaways where we played some games that we tried to set it up where it was sort of like a contest to see who could win, so many rounds of Unfortunate Spacemen. And that was because that was an easily quantifiable game. Either you lived or you died. And that was a pretty simple way to separate who got the keys. And unfortunately, this created an environment that we weren't really happy with afterwards. So we're going to be changing things going forwards. We're still sort of figuring out the method of doing this, but it's going to be more like a raffle almost, where you participate in the game night and you'll be eligible for one of the keys from Hairbrain Scheme. This will be games like Shadowrun and Survive Mars, right? Yeah.
Survival Mars. What's the robots? The mech one?
BattleTech.
BattleTech. They gave us a bunch of keys.
Yeah, there's so it's not that we don't know the games. It's that there's this giant list. They gave us of keys. So that being said, we have the game nights every 2 weeks on Friday evenings, and we're gonna start rolling those out at 6 p.m. Central, and they're gonna be right here in Discord. For now, they're gonna continue to be in Discord. We're working on ways to make that a Twitch thing later. That way we can make it a little bit more accessible to folks. So just be patient with us. It'll take us a little bit of time, but we're going to get there. But yeah, so you just join in, and usually it's going to be games like Jackbox and Among Us, but we also have plans for other games coming up soon. So stay tuned for that. As soon as we finalize the details on that, we'll start rolling those out, and we'll make an announcement that we're playing a new game that week as well. As always, go ahead.
I want to say, if you're new to the community, or if you work at a game studio or publisher out here, anywhere, and you want to give something to the giveaways for ATX Game Makers, contact Donald or Clint or both of them, and it would be very welcome. Or have a game that you think we should play during the game nights.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're open to suggestion for that. Yeah. While participating, make sure you're following the ATX code of conduct. If you wouldn't say it in front of your boss or potential employer, don't say it during game night. That's something that we want to kind of drive home.
Yeah, and just one little bit more on that. The age range in ATX Game Makers is like we have a member. I think he's maybe 15. So we have some young members running around here as well. So it's open to everyone. So yeah, we do take the code of conduct very, very strict around here.
That being said, we do have what we call the PG segment of the night, which is about 6 p.m. to about 7:30, 8-ish. Then about when the 8 o'clock hour rolls around, we move it up to the PG-13/R-rated element of the night, which is where we end up rolling into Jackbox with Quiplash and games like that. We do some family-friendly Jackbox earlier in the night, but then that's also when we're going to start rolling into doing Among Us and like Unfortunate Spacemen and stuff like that.
My 5-year-old loved last week's game night. He's like, when are we doing that again? Let's do it. So you might see a 5-year-old next Friday trying to draw kitties and stuff, fighting other things.
Your kid won some of those draw battles due to an unfair advantage.
It was cute.
I'm still mad.
Was the advantage being below the age of 10?
Being wholesome was the advantage.
I love it.
I will never forget.
So as far as like when we were talking earlier about really specific events and discussions and things, what I'm curious to know is for any of you, wherever you are in your game development journey, whether you're just entering it or whether you've been here for years and years, what is like the ideal either topic that you would want to learn more about or like event you would want to attend? Like what is something that sounds like, oh, I'm going to that immediately? What's like the first thing that comes to your mind?
Don't be shy.
Anything that you're like, man, I really wish I knew more about X. Like for me, I can't rig for shit.
I think there's two things that I would really like to see. One, like Teresa said earlier, life cycle. That's like ultimately what I really want to understand within the video game industry, like the development life cycle that a video game goes through. Understanding ideation, creation, development, quality analysis, and then, how do we provide a quality experience to our players? Second, I really enjoy the idea of like development Q&As, like kind of saying, here's this mechanic that works really well in this game. Let's break it down. What works about it, and how can we get something very similar? I was playing Celeste the other day, and I was like, the dash mechanic is pretty cool. And I don't know, just like, that's a little weird, but I think think something like that would be really interesting. I would enjoy seeing that.
Postmortems.
Yeah.
So, real quick on that note, my name is Brandon, by the way. Next month, I'm giving a talk to some UT students on customer focus in game development. And it might make sense for me to give that same talk to anyone who's interested here. It's going to focus on, a lot of stuff like how to play test and how to get the most out of that. So, seems like it's along the lines of the stuff you're interested in, cryogenic pizza. So that makes sense to do.
You can call me Emilio. But yeah, that sounds great. I would really appreciate that.
Perfect. And Brandon, I'm already in touch with you. We'll definitely get that set up.
Yeah, it sounds like something the ACC crew might be interested if I can wrangle them together.
Perfect.
I don't know if this is even a talk that's necessarily, well, it's relevant, but it's more on the critical decision making that goes into whether a game actually gets made. What's the critical point of failure between whether you proceed with a project or you don't? Whether it's coming from publishers, just a bad design, and we're not going to pursue this. We're taught how to use the tools and how to make the games, but we're not necessarily shown where to draw the line of should you pursue this project.
That's fun. Milestones, budget.
Interesting.
And I think
Sorry,
that's
I
kind
am
of
boring. I'm just thinking big picture more than just little.
No, I love that.
Oh
kind
no,
of
we're not
thing.
being sarcastic.
I
If you think it's interesting.
I don't think
It's like-
anybody has the answer to that question you just asked.
Yes.
Or at least not a very simple answer.
I think it goes with the life cycle of development really well.
Yeah, not only that, there is a couple of different angles that I was thinking at. So my day job, I don't know why I did air quotes. I work there, I have a job. My day job, I literally sit right in between publishers and studios, and like I'm the publishers, studios, and IP holders, right? And so I'm the guy usually going and asking for publisher money because I have rights to this IP and I want my studio to build a game. And so there is like, I dance that line of like, when should we stop or should we continue? And then, of course, the publisher is looking at what I'm delivering as far as builds are concerned, and they're thinking, should we stop or should we continue? So that's a very interesting. And it's very close to home. I'll say that for sure.
And I think it depends on the environment too. Like I've been in some really like laid back situations for continuing or stopping, and I've been in some really cutthroat ones where you're fearing for your life whether you're gonna make the milestone or not, or whether the whole team is going to, or deadline or whatever it is. Or, like, hey, this is really fun. Haha, look at that. Yes, let's continue that. So it depends on the situation and the company and the whole scope of the thing. Yep.
So what are some reasons for pulling the plug?
Well, so time is a big one, right? So if a publisher, let's say, for instance, is paying our studio to make a game and our dates are slipping, and we're just not meeting the milestones like Teresa was bringing up. If we're late to meeting those milestones and they can't hit the market at a certain time, they know for a fact a competing game or a game that's in the same space, the same genre, is coming out at the same time, and they want to beat it to the market. That's one reason that flies off the head, or just capabilities, right? I've been in the position to where my team was given advice to a publisher on builds that they were receiving, and we could clearly see that that particular team didn't have the skill set to complete the project, and so we were literally the ones pulling the plug. We're like, yeah, no, help us pull this plug. Don't put any more money into this project.
May I ask who asked that question?
I'm sorry?
Who asked the question?
Yes.
What about the tentacle?
Neptus?
This whole thing we're talking about?
Yes.
That was
Emilio asked, I thought.
Yeah, Neptus started the conversation, and I kind of piggybacked on when you pull the plug.
Yeah, there is a game that I can now talk about that the plug was pulled on since it's been over 7 years. So sometimes there just isn't an audience for it, or like, who is it? Brandon, right? Was talking about focus testing. And the audience is just like, nah, that seems like it's for this person, not me. And then that person's like, nah, that seems like it's for that other person, not me. And or they're working with new technology or something like that, and it sort of works, and you're like, okay, cool. And you get to a point where you're like, okay, here's our audience. Here's how much money we're going to make after we ship this thing. Here's how much money it's going to take us to get to ship it. It's not worth it. So then they stop.
So it seems like already there's a lot of interest in this one particular question. So maybe that's a panel that we can put together, and we can like get publishers to speak on it.
I wanted to ask or say this. I feel like he only asked that question only because Cyberpunk 2099 exists. So, if I may ask you, Neptis, any other examples besides maybe Cyberpunk? Which, I mean, Sony did pull off.
I wasn't even thinking of Cyberpunk. I've been thinking of projects I've been interested in that have gotten canceled in the past. I was very interested in Star Wars 1313. I've known about projects and genres I'm interested that have just fallen off the face of the earth because I guess there's not a big enough audience for it. And I wanted to know what those decisions are so I can basically, there's a lot of information I don't know on the business side that I want to understand so I can put myself and the people I work with in a better position to make the games we want to make and still be financially positive at best. At least keep the company afloat for a while. You know?
Like most things, there's never any one answer, and the answer is different in every situation.
I have some ideas of the reasoning or direction that brings a positive yield for games making it, and it's really to hire people based off of skill, not off of like, oh, this person's cool or they've been in the industry for forever. Hire them because they're good at what they do, and then give them control to do their job. And have a big planning phase, and make sure you have, like, I think they call it like a racy chart, where you say, you know, I'm responsible for this, accountable for this, etc. Who's gonna say what? And I think in my Prepare Yourself ATX Game Makers blog, you start at the end. So you start by sending that end report, that like, what's it gonna look like when it ships? So you work back from there, and then you have your plan. And when I was shipping games, I would have plans that included what each day was going to look like over months. Like, on this day, we're going to get this deliverable, so we're going to test this. On this day, we're going to do this and this and this and this. And down to the day. And I feel like a lot of companies start working on one thing and get kind of laser focused without being in blinders up, without being able to look at different diverse ways things can be done. So always be learning. Let people do their jobs. Trust them to do it. And I think then it goes really well. If you have a good plan. Yeah, I've never seen that fail.
So real quick, I'm going to post the link in the chat, and the link is from some research into why startups fail, and the top reasons why startup fails maps to a lot of the top reasons why games are canceled. Like, there's no market need, right? Which is what Teresa was talking about, or you run out of cash, or the math doesn't work. or you just don't have the right people. Like, it is possible to desire to want to make a game that you can't make because you don't have the right team. And those are the top reasons why startups fail in general. And it's completely applicable to why you might cancel a game. And there's differences between, like, we explored an idea and decided not to do it, and we took money for an idea and then couldn't do it. Right. And we announced it and then we had to roll it back. There's like in order of increasing badness, you really want to, by the time you're announcing it, you really want to have a good sense of when it's going to come out. And there's a bunch of ways that goes off the rail, and that would be great to talk about that stuff sometime. But as the industry gets more professional, I think we see in general fewer of those mistakes of that class happen, but they still happen.
Right.
I love this topic because the more diverse the team from perspective, the better they do, because you get better coverage, you get all kinds of audience perspectives involved in the game, which increases, the yield after it's released. So that's why I really like this community that Donald's created, because it's all about making inclusivity in gaming, which will increase diversity.
So, if I may butt in here, to go back to the original overarching question of what do we want to see? I mean, all these answers so far are good, but by all means, like, there's a lot of content in the GDC vault that we can go find and post links for, et cetera, et cetera. And so I'd like to see a lot of stuff that's a little more specific to our locale here within Texas. There's a whole bunch of publishers, studios, developers, teams here in Texas that I can't find anything about them in GDC, the vault, or just anywhere. But maybe there are connections here through ATX where, hey, we can get a good expo dump on such and such people's teams, studios, etc. I think that'd be of particular interest. Yeah.
Okay.
Are you thinking like the actual structure of studios, or just like various things that could come up from?
So I was thinking first and foremost, maybe like local publishers of, hey, we have such and such publishers. They're known for publishing XYZ. We do have a contact with them. If you want to pitch to them, you'd want to work on XYZ. Maybe also studios that are working on projects and maybe they're looking for something. I mean, I don't know the specifics to give you, unfortunately, but just that, stuff that's more specific to Texas, I think would be of particular interest.
I do think the idea of, hey, for the Austin area, here are the trends. Most of the studios in the area tend to work in these sectors of the industry. The publishers who exist around here tend to publish these sorts of products, and just kind of being aware of sort of what makes the Austin side of the industry regionally unique from sort of what Silicon Valley, tends to work on, what what Vancouver does, sort of the just general beat of what sort of games and what sort of platforms and what sort of genres do a large number of individual studios, especially some of the older, more established studios in the area, like, what do they make? If you want to get a job in Texas and stay in Texas, are there any specific skills or software or engines that would be more beneficial to learn, that would be more valued by companies here in Texas than in other game industry hubs?
So you kind of touched on a few things there that I find pretty interesting. Then, first off, what I will say is, obviously, a lot of the folks here have different connections throughout the Austin area, and obviously, I just told you I sit in between IP holders and publishers, so I definitely have connections to publishers throughout the area. And what you're making me think of or making me envision is some sort of panel discussions about, success and failures from your point of view inside the industry, right? And so, like, if we have different publishers on that panel, different, local studio heads on that panel. The difficulties, of course, are like, people are skirmish about speaking to their failures, but if you present it in such a way that people are able to learn from those failures, it comes off differently. And then the other thing that you made me start thinking about, and the only reason why I'm also like voicing this, because like I know people are taking notes and I want to be able to like go back to this and speak to this and think about this, is that highlighting local studios, local publishers, and maybe doing like a one-on-one interview with their studio heads or publishing, CEO heads from the ATX Game Makers standpoint, right? And so like maybe we can uh, uh, send out a notice that says like, hey, we're going to be talking to such and such at Aspire. This is what they do at Aspire. This is what they're responsible for. What questions do you have for that person?
Donald.
Huh?
It would be really cool if it were, especially for me. I remember Brian asked, like, what would you be excited about if that were from underrepresented people that you usually don't see. Yeah.
Definitely. Just further highlighting and coming from that angle as well, for sure. But I think that'd be something great. I like that idea.
Hey, can I ask a question? This is Matthew Nowacki.
Yeah.
Hi, I've been to a couple of the game nights, but not very active in the channel. But been heads down the last few months working on a project for really the first startup that I've ever been involved with. I've been working in Austin. Born and raised Austin, but been working in games here, mostly AAA as a designer and programmer for the last 10 years. And now this is really the first time that I've ventured out to try to do something as far as a startup. And we've been, getting a core team together, which I think is good, and we have a lot of skills. We're starting to develop out, some prototype software. We just got put up on the App Store finally with our beta, really with the goal of getting investment or a publishing deal. But getting that first vertical slice put together to really present it, the game as best as possible. Just like brief elevator pitch, the game is about sustainable living. It's called Civil X, and it's to create education around a really cool quest guild system that allows you to learn about what sustainable living is. It's all based around solar punk art styles and the culture that's involved with that. And then how can we, really kind of start extending that into the world with AR technology. It's kind of like Pokemon Go, but for solar punk, essentially. And we've gotten some interest. Like I'm really well connected within the games industry here in Austin, but mostly in the AAA space, not in the startup indie space. So I guess just like it's like general, like the question overall would be, how does one go from like getting that vertical slice and then into front of the actual money people here in Austin? And we're not just an Austin based team. Like a few of us are in Austin, but one of them is in New Zealand and others in Michigan. I don't know if that's a factor in that, but yeah, really just like, what is the next step once we get to something where I'm like, hey, you can download this, you can test it on TestFlight or the Android phone, and see what you think. Would you like to give us money? Right? Like that sort of thing. I knew there would be a pitch deck involved with that and presentations and that sort of thing, but we don't really know how to go about like finding the people. So it's similar to the last kind of topic, but not exactly.
So I can definitely speak to that. And to be pretty blunt, there is no magic answer. It is literally getting out there, networking, and smiling and dialing. That's what it is for me. And I have found, especially during the pandemic and with the surge of money into the games industry, it's been a lot easier to have those conversations, right? So a lot of what I do as a business maker for Farbridge is literally that. Like I will lean on my contacts and lean on my network that I've built over the years. And I know that let me change that answer a little bit. If you don't have a network that you've built over the years, this is the time to build that network, right? By coming to events like this, meeting all of these different people here, and the mods specifically will probably have connections to other folks in the industry, and just getting to know other people in ATX Game Makers can connect you to potential money people. So that's what it's been for me. Leaning on that network and just reaching out and building that relationship, right? So when you do talk to someone like I'll pick on Aspire since I said it before, but like you call those guys up, or you look at their past publications. If they've not done much in the education space, those aren't the folks for you. But if you were able to build a connection there, maybe they may know someone at a different publishing organization or another organization that might be interested in your particular game. So even contacting people who you kind of know will give you a no can lead to a yes.
Okay, sure, that makes sense, right? And like I know Patrick fairly well over the years, so that makes sense coming from where Farbridge and what he's been doing with that for the last few years. Yeah, okay. I mean, I guess like my thought process is more in like I know like the people I've worked for, like Warren Spector or Richard Garriott, Chris Roberts, the old guard of Austin, if you will, right? And I myself really kind of fall more into that paradigm as it is, and I've been kind of lost in like I feel almost like as Austin has transitioned to be a much more VR centric space, really. Whereas I don't have any experience in that. It's all been console, PC, traditional games. And like in the indie sphere, like I know a handful of people, but most of them are looking for the same things that I am, right? So like getting connected with someone like Devolver Digital or Annapurna, like those sort of groups, but like I don't really know how to go about doing that. Like I can talk to Finn Staber, for example, and like Chicken Waffle, right? But I don't know how much that would help.
So I'm gonna point out something that you literally just said. So my boss Patrick, right? So Patrick has connections to Devolver Digital.
Yeah, that
Call
makes
him
sense. Okay.
tomorrow. I don't know what you're doing tomorrow. Call up Patrick tomorrow. Hey Pat, I got this game idea. I'd really like to speak to someone at Devolver Digital. That simple. Like
Devolver also put out, or I think Fall Guys, but some group were like, which game should we work with? So they're also reaching out on their social medias.
Yeah, it's out there. Like who else? What's the ones out of England? Team 17. So I literally blind called them from a LinkedIn connection and got them on the phone. Started talking about money, and so it's like what I guess what I'm trying to press upon you. It's not as difficult as you think. Will you get a lot of no's? Yes, but the difficulty of like going and doing it, just go and do it. And I always kind of hate to be like that. I don't like to be the guy that's like, I believe in you, just go and do it. But in this case, go and do it. Be prepared. If you're able to get a vertical slice, yes, please have a vertical slice. Get a pitch deck together. If you need advice on a pitch deck, I know a guy. Wink, wink. Josh. Josh is amazing, and he stays on pitch decks all the time. So there are resources that you can get to help you with the basics, but like as far as networking goes, man, pick up the phone, call them.
Yeah. If I could add something to that, the easy part, quote unquote, is going out and networking. The hard part is getting that yes. And getting that yes, what's really important about that is having something you can demonstrate and put in their hands and put in front of them that shows them, hey, I can do part of this. It needs, but I need you to finish it, basically.
Yeah, we're very close to that, I think. So yeah, that's been the push for the last few months. Like I went to the Denny Assam's Gaming Academy for leadership, and like some of these skills are obviously translatable. I think that's good. And Patrick was actually one of the people that I was thinking of reaching out to because he's obviously been doing this for a while. Coming from a similar space and transitioning into starting his own thing. So okay, cool. I appreciate the time, and feel free to hit me up on Twitter or on the Discord. My name is the same, Wacky Matty. And if you have any other advice, thank you.
It's really
All
cool
right,
to hear from you. I was gonna
I'm
say
gonna.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say I'm gonna ask Patrick if you talk to him tomorrow. I'm gonna follow up.
Well, I want to get that vertical slice together first, to be honest, because we're doing our last sprint, so that is the goal in the next two weeks. So, I feel like I do agree with you that like that. I mean, that's what we've been driving towards. It is that you need to have that first before you start talking to people.
Yep.
So
I think even.
I have to
go
go
ahead.
soon. I'm streaming via Twitch. So that will stop very soon. And I wanted to thank you for bringing up Richard Garriott. The last time I heard about him, his DNA was being shot into space.
Oh, it wasn't his DNA. It
was
was
it?
yeah, it was. He brought along one of the some song band.
I heard
I
it
can't
was
remember which
his.
band. Yeah, but he did bring it along with him. He'd actually told us that while we were working for him. He just hadn't publicly announced it.
And I think that if you pre-ordered Tabula Rasa, you got to swab your mouth and also get your DNA shot into space. I was so bummed out I missed it.
Yeah, he's a real eccentric guy. Fun. I don't know if that's the right word. Fun, but yeah, I worked on Shard of the Avatar as one of the designers. So.
The wild
That's
thing is that's
awesome.
not the first time I've heard something really bizarre about Richard Garriott involving things being put into outer space. Because didn't he go into space, and while he was gone,
Yes.
one of the publishers that he was working on like tried to forge documents in his name or something like that, and he had to go to
Yes.
court with them.
Gosh.
And like he had the perfect alibi. It's like, well, how can you prove that you didn't sign these documents? I was in space.
Oh my god.
That is how you can know that I didn't sign these documents.
I love it.
I was in space.
And now Tesla's
do we
coming
wanna
here.
Let Maya, do we want to let Mio say? I know Mio was just going to say something. Do we want to say that and then call the official event complete?
Yes,
Oh, yeah,
please. I must go.
I like how you phrase that. Like, do we want to let Mio speak?
I vote no.
I mean,
really
I would like to let Mio speak, but I would also understand if Teresa absolutely has to go.
Well, I was also going to say just that if there was something that you wanted to see, well, obviously, thank you for sharing. That gives us a lot of stuff to work on as far as the mod team goes. If there's anything that y'all were thinking about, anyone on Twitch who's listening, things that you would like to see, you can use the suggestions channel. If you don't feel comfortable using that, you can message literally any of us that you feel comfortable with. But yeah, thanks.
And to find our Discord, atxgamemakers.com. It'll have it there. There's a link.
Oh, I had a question about like the effectiveness of crowdsourcing, because when Wacky Maddie was mentioning finding money people, crowdsourcing just like popped into my mind. How effective is that in game dev?
So I have very little personal experience with crowdsourcing. There was one project that I was a part of at this one studio. Gosh, I just forgot the name of the studio. It's no longer around. But we weren't successful in hitting the goal. It was a Kickstarter project. But what it did do is it acted as a marketing vehicle for the studio. And so there's always, in my, again, limited experience, opinion, I like to look at it as two different ways, right? A marketing vehicle for you, your studio, and your project, or a money source, right? If you hit the goal, you get the money source. But what I will also encourage you to do is do a lot of research into how those things pan out after people get the money, because I've had some friends who got the money and then didn't realize that the tiers and the prizes that they were giving away took time, took a lot of money, and like it hurt the progress of the project. So,
Yep.
if anyone else has more experience with successful Kickstarters,
I do. Not working on them, but studying them and being part of the communities. I think you hit the nail on the head with regards to, especially early on, like 2012, 2013, 2014, when the idea of using crowdfunding for game development was a fairly novel idea. A lot of studios fell for that, where they underestimated a lot of the unique financial challenges solely that's basically exclusive, like you said, prizes or other tier goodies, not properly accounting for how much time and how much budget those things take away. But they have the conventional wisdom about what sort of prizes should be made in what bulk, which ones should be made in bigger bulk, the importance of freely distributed digital goodies, digital copies of games, digital art books, wallpapers, things that you don't have to worry about the cost of production, but still make the backer still feel special. But I think that it's a perfectly viable avenue. But I do think that I will agree completely with Donald when he said that it is just as much of a marketing tool. Or you did have a small successful campaign, but then you were able to make a deal with Epic or Deep Silver, who in the past have worked with successfully kickstarted projects to provide additional funding. And it can just as well be a step and not just the sole way forward in acquiring funds to make the game happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to end the stream. Thank you so much. I wanted to wait because there's such good conversation happening. So thank you very much. Goodbye, everybody.